Well guys, sadly Dahlia season has come to an end. We had our first frost last night. As you can see, the foliage has turned black. That is our telltale sign. It's time to dig up our Dahlia tubers and overwinter them. Now, one of my favorite things about Dahlias is that they really do bloom up until that very first frost. You can see my buds that just got frosted last night. So sad, but it's okay because we had many months of beautiful flowers, and that's another reason that I love Dahlias, and that's another reason why they're worth overwintering. Now, once you have all of the stakes out, remove any old foliage that might be residing on the soil, of course, and we are going to now cut these stems back to around 3 to 4 inches. Now, you want to make sure that you cut your stems back on the same day that you're actually digging those tubers up. You don't want to cut them back and leave them exposed in the cold weather. That is a good invitation for bacteria, which can then cause rotting of the tubers in the overwintering process. So we're going to cut them back about 3 inches. Add those to the compost pile. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dig the tubers out, but you need to do so very carefully, making sure that you don't damage any of those tubers. They're very brittle and they become damaged very easily. A damaged tuber is going to have a hard time overwintering because it may never actually cure over, healing that wound, and an unhealed wound invites moisture, invites bacteria, invites rot, and invites an unsuccessful overwintering process. So let's do this very delicately. Now, I always like to plant mine in plastic pots like you see. I had them in a nicer container, but this is going to allow me to just actually cut the pot away from the tubers. Now check this out. This is a pure gold mine of tubers. Okay. Look at that, they're gonna be all over the place. So now we're gonna just do our very best to really kind of caress any excess soil away from this situation. If they come out in big chunks, that's the best. Look at that, beautiful. Any sort of roots like this are not super important, so if you do need to break some of them up in order to get that soil away, that's a-okay. All right, so once you've cleaned it off as much as you can at the moment, we're gonna let it dry out for another few days until some of the soil has a chance to really just dry and we can just flake it off. So for now, I'm gonna go put it back behind me in my garage and just let it sit here for the next few days until I can clean it a little bit better. All right, so now we have our big honkin' Dahlia tuber. It's all nice and dried out, and it's been about 3 or 4 days since we initially dug it out of the ground. Now we're ready to store them. So you're gonna wanna get a big bag of peat moss, and I'm gonna be using a double layer of just normal grocery bags. You can also use a cardboard box. Some gardeners will actually like to use a plastic trash bag. The hardest thing about overwintering the Dahlias is getting that right humidity, moisture content. If it's too dry, it's gonna dry out, wither, and they're gonna shrink away and not be viable next spring. Alternatively, if there's too much moisture, it's of course going to rot, and that's not going to be viable either. So it really can take some practice. It can take some experimenting, trial and error, which sucks because it is, you got to wait the whole next year to do it. So if you have maybe 3 Dahlias, try it 3 different ways, see which way works best for you. But for me, I find that using a double layer of paper grocery bags is good enough. And so next we are going to take our peat moss, pour some in the base, then we will take our big old tuber and place it in. Now I tend to find that it's also easier to divide in the springtime. Just barely fits in there. Then we're gonna cover it with some more. And once we have it all nice and covered, whether this is a cardboard box, a plastic bag, we want to seal it, but like not all the way. We don't want to trap all of the air in there, but we also don't want all of the air to come out. So with the paper bags, it's really easy to do that because it's pretty much impossible to trap all that air in there. So I just take some tape, kind of fold it over, and I tape it up. All right, so now that we have our dahlia stored correctly, what we need to do every single month, probably like the first day of the month, that's when I do it. I go and check in on all of my overwintered stuff. Back there I have my agapanthus, my geranium, my elephant ears, my calla lilies. And so I choose one day out of the month to go look at everything. What we'll do, we'll open our bags up, we'll take a look at our dahlia tubers. If it looks like it's getting too dry, then we'll take a little spritzer and we'll just give it a nice little spritzing just to give it a little bit of extra moisture. If it looks like it's too wet, maybe we'll open up the bag a little bit and let it air out a little bit more. So it really does depend on you checking in on it once a month just to see how it's going and ensuring that it is overwintering well. All right, well, that's pretty much all you need to know when it comes to overwintering our dahlias. If you do have any other further questions or comments or your own ways of doing it, which I know there's a million, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I always read them and do my best to respond to every single one of them. Don't forget, like this video if you found it a little bit helpful, and also think about subscribing. We're offering new plant-related content every single weekend. So by clicking that subscribe button and then that little bell icon, you can get notifications of every time that we're uploading new plant content. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. I'll catch you soon. Ciao.